radiator side pods of the car, which wouldn't have been doing the engine any good whatsoever. Philip Ravel had only 10 laps in his car, the first time that he's raced the RT4, before his tyres went off, but he had no new tyres to go to, so he's going to be starting the second heat without any new tyres. So all up, not a good time for these drivers, and John Smith, the control tyre problem really is causing a drama for the drivers.
It's a hell of a problem, John. It's the problem I envisage with it is that the control tyre idea was to give the bloke at the back a bit of a battling chance, and at this stage it's gone the other way around. The tyres are so soft that they're using them at a great rate of knots, and of course the poor bloke that doesn't have any sponsorship is suffering dramatically with it.
Just to explain, control tyres are tyres which the drivers have all agreed to use as a single tyre with a single compound.
That's right.
Which are all equal.
That's
now
exactly right.
The idea was that those tyres were supposed to be hard enough to last at least 2 races and therefore give you some economic assistance.
That's exactly right. You're looking at about, say, $1,000 a set for tyres, and when you're using 3 and 4 sets of meeting, it stuff is very, very expensive. The whole idea of the thing was that if everybody raced on the same sort of tyres, there would be no tyre war. Everyone could pick on a tyre that would be economical enough to do, say, at least 1 race meeting per set.
So what's gone wrong? How come the tyres are cutting out as quickly as they are?
Well, the tyres that they bought out are the compound that everybody wanted, but they bought them out on what I call a softer casing, and the casing around corners is actually moving and letting the tyre flex a lot more, which is overheating the tyre and throwing great chunks of rubber off it.
So what can be done about the situation with Wanneroo only next weekend?
Well, I honestly say throw the tyre rule out the window, and you've got to leave it free for all until some genuine testing has been done. Other than that, or go to another known make of tyre. They're racing on Dunlops at the moment. I'd opt for Avon tyres, or a Goodyear, which is a known quantity.
Well, of course, the Goodyear is used as the control tyre by the Formula Pacific people in New Zealand, and is lasting at least 2 races.
Oh, that's right. They're very good tyres in New Zealand. They're very, very hard. They make for spectacular racing, but they do last very, very well. I raced in New Zealand, got 1,000 kilometres out of a set of tyres. I thought it was terrific.
Roberto Marino, of course, won on Avons in the Australian Grand Prix last year. Is that tyre capable of doing the sort of distances you're looking for as well?
Yes, yeah, definitely would be. That's the one I would shoot for, the one that they used in the Australian Grand Prix.
The cars come up to the grid now for the second 25-lap heat of the National Panasonic Series and the second round of the Australian Gold Star Series. Andrew Medicke won the first round. Behind him was John Bowe, and behind him Charlie O'Brien. Then came Alf Costanzo.
Alf Costanzo, the man that set a new lap record in the first race, which interestingly was 2 seconds faster than the best time done by Peter Brock with more than 600 horsepower in the last race. So if anybody out there who's a proponent for big Australian family cars thinks that weight and bulk isn't an enemy of making motor cars go quickly, could quickly revise it when they see these little 1.6 litres. 50.2 seconds was his best time, but grids, of course, were set on the basis of yesterday's times. He equalled that best time of Charlie O'Brien and Andrew Medecki. Bowe was a tenth of a second slower. Hansford there. Hansford will be very handicapped. I don't think he's got a new set for this race. Costanzo has.
No, Hansford is going on the same set he used in the first round. The car was also oversteering badly, and they were working furiously on the car in the pits to try and cure that.
Performances in this race will be quite different depending on whether drivers are running new tyres or their existing ones, and those with their existing ones are going to be wrestling with a very unpleasant problem. It's quite a hot day here at Adelaide Raceway. The sun's streaming down and baking into the black bitumen, getting quite a lot of heat soak. 25 laps again, 60 and a quarter laps, 60 and a quarter kilometres.
Ribs rise. Blendex with a flag. Look at Bowe sideways from the outside of the grid. Medicke coming up the middle.
With Charlie O'Brien touching wheels with him. And a most untidy argument off the start line.
Charlie O'Brien ducking out of the slipstream, but Medicke's got the inside line.
O'Brien will be lucky if he finishes fourth. He just does in front of Peter Williamson. He's third.
Bowe in second place behind Medicke.
Up there this time too, as he got a terrible start in the last race, so he's hanging right in there with him as well. We've lost Alfie somewhere as well.
Medecki Medecky, Bow, O'Brien.
Behind him, Williamson. Then comes Hansford, Davidson, Radicic on the outside, Ravel.
And Alfie Costanzo is tail end Charlie. Absolutely end of the field. There he is, just coming into the picture right down the very end, the white car. So poor Alfie Costanzo. Watch him though, because he'll be much better equipped in terms of tyres, as well as being a quick driver, than many of the cars in front of him. So he will make a lot of ground, as we saw there Chris Hocking, I think it was, in 74, spearing through and making some valuable ground. But this is Medecky and Bow. That's O'Brien, and that's Williamson. And again, you can see the extension to the engine and gearbox compartment at the back of route number 2, and the rear wing sitting seemingly a little bit more rearward. It's not actually, they're all mounted in the same position because there are rules on that. Charlie O'Brien, Peter Williamson being hounded by Hansford, who's doing a grand job, really is, and there's Alf, just gone out of picture now, Costanzo, so that tail end Charlie, as he picks up one place, is Ron Barnacle.
It'd be interesting to see Robert Hansford's progress in this race too. He's just borrowed all the ignition system off my crashed car to try and cure a miss that he's had around it, which happens about halfway through the race, so if he starts to drop back, you know that the ignition system wasn't put forward.
Andrew Medecky now up onto the banking. Almost a repeat of the first round of the series.
With Hansford giving Williamson some real hurry up in 3rd and 4th place. Hansford 4th. Richard Davison consolidating in 5th behind him. And 64, Phil Ravel, 7th.
It'd be interesting also to note, Will, too, the difference in performance down the straight between Medecky's car and Bow. John Bow seems to think that Medecky's engine might not possibly be legal, and he has put a protest up accordingly, so it would be interesting to see if there is actually any difference in straight line performance between the two.
Well, John Bow certainly undertaking a bit of psychological warfare on Andrew Medecky. Yesterday, of course, he said that Medecky himself wasn't up to the task and was a little bit off the pace. I wonder how he's feeling about that right now. There's Charlie O'Brien in 3rd position. And
here is Williamson and Hansford. They're running in 4th and 5th place, respectively. This 26-year-old Queenslander, no relation to Greg Hansford, similarly named, but with the help of Larry Perkins to help him with sorting the car out, he is doing a great job, and he's about to be 4th place, I think. And he's on rotten old tyres. And he is. Well, that's great driving.
And nicely positioned himself into the corner as well. Very well done. Now, he's had about 15 races in Formula Ford in England, and I asked his mentor, Larry Perkins, yesterday, whether the bloke who hasn't had much experience in Formula Pacific could really be race-wise. Perkins suggested that 15 rounds of Formula Ford in Britain was more than any Australian could ever expect to achieve in racecraft.
Having seen quite a lot of Formula Ford races in England, John, I can only agree. They have perhaps 30 really strong competitors and well over 100. And in the years that I was resident there and commentating, there were 3 separate series for Formula Ford races. And they're biffing each other and tearing wheels off, and 4 and 5 guys fanning out as they go down the straights and then coming in one behind the other as they go round the corners and leaning on each other. It's fearsome racing, but it's the sort of racing out of which world champions come. And this Hansford's got a lot of determination. He's spending all his own money, and if something doesn't come good this weekend, a magic fairy from somewhere, he'll be putting that car away for some while until he can save the money to be able to afford to buy tyres to go motor racing again.
That must be the same fairy that I'm looking for.
Yes, well, your tale's a sorry one, John. An RT1 Ralph that you're trying to sell, and a car that your car's owner wants to sell anyway, which is now a wreck.
That's right, yes. At this stage, I'll probably have to resort to the RT1 and just see how I go. Although I'm not that upset about it. Well, the RT1 is an excellent car, and as we proved last year in the National Panasonic Series, and I'm very upset about having absolutely demolished my RT4, but I've just got to get back to Sydney and try and sort all that business out.
Phil Ravel's doing well too there, because he's not too far behind Peter Williamson. He Ravel in 64, and he's having only his third drive in a Formula Pacific.
John, looking at Hansford at the end of the main straight, he appears to be turning in later than just about every other driver, putting a lot more pressure on his left front tyre. Why would he be doing it?
It's very difficult to say. I'd say he's trying to brake a lot later than everybody else and is maybe unbalancing their car a fraction, John. That's about the only thing I could say for it.
Richard Davison there in car 6, being rounded up by Ravel, so that they've changed place. Ravel comes up to 6th, Davison in 6th, goes back to 7th, and in 8th place, Alfie Costanzo. So keep your eyes open, Richard Davison, or you'll be going back yet another place.
Actually, I'm looking at these gentlemen dicing, and I'm doing my homework as well. Richard Davison ran second to me at the last Oran Park meeting as far as the points go. So the 4 gentlemen all leading the race at this stage didn't even get onto the grid at Oran Park. So at this stage, I'm not really upset if Phil Ravel beats Richard Davison home.
And there's Al Costanzo in behind Davison. Interesting to watch his progress forward, perhaps. And here he is. He's 8th at the moment. He's 7th, and no, he's not quite yet. But Davison must be scratching for tyres, perhaps. And further forward, you can see that Williamson here is under immediate threat from Phil Ravel on 64. And here's Al Costanzo now. In the Tiga, number 1, he's 8th, and he's now 7th. Davison 8th.
I'd say Davison's in a fair bit of trouble as well. His car was chronically understeering in the first heat. They changed tyres and tried to adjust it out of it, but I'd say he's got a bit more of a problem than that. Well,
in fact, he also had a lot of fuel surge problems in the first round, and I think that might be what is affecting him now.
Yeah. The RT4 Rolts do suffer this problem of fuel surge. They're very delicately balanced in the fuel system, and it takes a little bit to get on top of that. We discovered that initially in the Australian Grand Prix.
Boom. Goodbye, Peter Williamson.
Phil Ravel goes forward.
Last year's Formula Ford champion, and boy, is he doing it well. This is the car that Roberto Marino allegedly drove to victory in the Australian Grand Prix last year, with a motor built by Larry Perkins, a Nicholson McLaren engine from England. And Phil Ravel, and only his first real motor race in the motor car, is doing very well indeed.
John Smith, you're around the pits between the 2 heats. What might be causing Peter Williamson's problem?
Well, Willow's cranked on a fair bit of wing after he came back in after the first heat. He was a little bit dissatisfied with the way the car was getting off the bowl. He said it was very, very taily, and whether he's pulled on so much wing that the car is actually a lot slower in a straight line, or he's giving it a bit of a rev.
This is a great race because away from them is a battle developing in 2nd, 3rd and 4th. The gap between 1st and 4th is 1.8 seconds only, and that's it. And have a look at Bow being threatened by O'Brien as Madecki moves away a little.
And look at Hansford moving up onto the back of O'Brien as well. He's really charged up from his Peter Williamson day.
Boy.
I reckon you're right, John. Hansford's the bloke to look at the moment. He's definitely doing it very, very well.
Oh, this is great stuff. Really is. The amount of ground and time that he's made on this pair in front of him should see him get through them.
Yes.
But will he get through, and has he got the tyres to carry on the job to the end of the race? 10 laps done, they're on their 11th, and it's a 25 lapper, and the sun's beating down.
It's one thing to catch a person, Will, as you probably know, but it's another thing to pass. And Charlie O'Brien is well schooled in the art of keeping someone behind him, so we'll just wait and see.
Fascinating race. A lot of strategy and thought going into this. Here's Madecki. He's got the situation nicely sorted at the moment. But Hansford there on O'Brien. Pretty bumpy there too, John, that right-hander. Unsettles the cars.
Yes, there is. There's a drain. It actually goes across under the circuit at the bottom under brakes, and it subsides when they get a bit of rain, and of course it upsets the cars dramatically as soon as you turn into the corner.
And how about this? The lap record falls to Robert Hansford on a 50.1. How about that?
Maybe my spark box is working after all.
Well, that's great. That's something to be happy about, Johnny.
The time so far, Andrew Madecki, 50.3, equaling the new lap record that he set in the first round of practice. Then Charlie O'Brien, 50.6, the best to date.
It'll be very 50.5. Costanzo had done a 50.2. Al Costanzo was sitting on the record with a 50.2 in the first race, set on the 6th lap.
It'd be interesting to know too the two different schools of thought with gear ratios. Robert Hansford is adopted the same gear ratios that myself and Larry Perkins used here last year, which is third on the bowl.
Oh, did you see that as he pulled out from Ron Barnacle? So nearly took the nose off Hansford's car.
And which gives you an extra gear down the straight, which in a little motor like this is a big help. And whereas the other gentlemen like Charlie O'Brien and John Bell are both using the fourth gear on the bowl. And if they do get balked a little bit, that makes it a lot more difficult for them.
Andrew Madiki in the lead. Behind him, John Bow. Behind him, Charlie O'Brien. Then comes Robert Hansford. Ron Barnacle behind him has been lapped.
The pity of this is that Hansford, let's hope that he can keep it going, but Hansford did only 15 laps in the first heat and was a non-finisher. So he's going to be well down in the two heats put together. The drivers get 20 points in a decreasing thing down to 1 point for 14th place. The points are added up and then the race order is determined on that, and they then get their 9, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1 points towards both the National Panasonic Series and the Australian Drivers' Championship. But here's the man who really is showing enormous happiness and ease in the car, John. He's obviously very much at home. Got the car flowing nicely, he's quick, he looks safe. Yeah. And he's been greatly helped by Larry Perkins to sort out things like wings and roll bars and so on.
At this stage, Will, I don't think you can take it away from Andrew. He's the man in the box seat and doing it quite well. Bowie's chasing, but he doesn't seem to be making much of an improvement. At this stage, I can't see Andrew losing a race unless something dramatically happens. But with these tyres, you never know.
Hansford's losing contact there a bit with car 3, Charlie O'Brien.
Indeed, O'Brien is losing a bit of contact with the vehicle in front of him, John Bow as well.
At this stage, about how many laps gone now? About 15?
They're coming up.
To go. This is when they're all talking in the pits about when the tyres all shred. So we'll just wait and see what happens. That cars get very, very skatey after about the 15th lap, they were telling me.
Look at O'Brien looking in the rear vision mirrors there.
Yes.
He knows Hansford. And here comes Hansford.
I thought he was looking to outbrake him, and he's done it, but he's going off. No? Well, he hung on to it.
Talk about your classic motor racing lines.
John Smith was on the way to a heart attack there. John, did you think he was gone?
Actually, I heard his line was that from the inside moving to the outside, like, unbalances the car dramatically going into that corner. There's still a fourth gear corner, and they're doing in the vicinity of 110 miles an hour. So
175 kilometres an hour there.
So in that particular instance, it's a bit of a rash move, I thought.
The guy's got away with it, and rash or not, from a race driving point of view, nothing's rash if it gets you a placing, and he's
1.2 seconds now between John Bow and Rob Hansford, and I don't know whether he can pull that back as well.
I don't know whether TV cameras can pick it up either, but if they can notice the back tyres on Charlie O'Brien's car have a serious line going around it, which indicates how badly they're graining up and falling apart. So that could be one reason for his demise in this race now.
Charlie also, if he was thinking about the race thing, would know that Hansford wasn't a threat to him in terms of placings overall in the two heats. In that sense, wouldn't want to risk the tyres going very bad. John Bow, though, he's the man that now has to worry. Only about 4 seconds, I'd say, separating first from third. Madeki in a beautifully turned out car, running the race as he wishes with Bow's second. And Hansford there had a real moment. Coming off the banking, bounced himself off the wall a couple of times, I think.
It's very easy to do on the exit of that corner because to get that corner very quickly, to do it right, you've got to almost shave the wall.
Richard Davison coming onto the banking. So Richard Davison, the first retirement in this race, which isn't bad.
He finished 8th in the first heat, had a fastest lap of 51.3. And we think he might have tangled with Ron Barnacle as he was lapping Barnacle. But anyway, he is indeed retiring, not far from Madeki comes through now, followed by Bow. Hansford is back to fourth place as O'Brien resumes third. Phil Revell's fifth. Peter Williamson sixth. Alf Costanzo seventh. Car 1. So Costanzo's still interesting, and I think with the ability to improve perhaps on his place with 18 laps completed, 7 to go.
Yeah, I think Richard actually pulled out with mechanical failure. He's had a terrible weekend actually all round after bouncing off the wall on Friday, getting no practice in and then having a wet session on Saturday morning. So basically he's had a bit of a miserable run.
Madecki still tantalising John Bell.
Madecki takes a different line on the bowl to everybody else too. He starts from reasonably high up and drives down off the banking.
1.1 the gap between Madecki and Bow. Then O'Brien back third. Hansford falling away now. Hansford has his hands full. He's actually got a big problem, I'd say, John Smith, for the next few laps. But well, let's look at Peter Williamson and Alf Costanzo.
And Toyota motor is reputed to have a lot more horsepower than everybody else, but it looks like it's the other way around at this stage. Everybody seems to get a good toe off Willow and be able to pick him up at the end of the straight.
The corner there, the right-hander where Costanzo went under Williamson, has been distinguished by witnessing 2 off-circuit excursions by Alf this weekend, which is most unusual. In Formula 5000, he very rarely ever got the car out of shape, and I can't think of him having left the track or damaged the car, but this weekend he banged the nose and the battery box, and they had to refabricate some of the sheet alloy at the front of the car, in behind the section there supporting the front wings.
It's a funny thing to note too, in both occasions he come in with over 12,000 revs on the tacho, so he's obviously having quite a go when he went on.
Peter Williamson, therefore, in car 7, now in 7th place. Costanzo 6th. Phil Revell 5th. Hansford still 4th, but perhaps being possibility of falling back through the field. And that's the man they all want, but don't have the ammunition to get to him. As he sweeps off the banking to complete lap 21. He has 4 laps remaining. So he's travelled some 52 kilometres around this 2.41 kilometre circuit.
I think Revell just picked up Robert Hansford as well, just coming off the bowl. So it'll be interesting to see on his progress whether Hansford's running into this mechanical problem again that he had in the first session, I don't know. Or whether he's just cooked his tyres up along with everybody else. At this stage, it's a late charge from Philip Revell.
I don't think he was planning any new tyres for this race, Hansford. And they'd be in parlous state. I imagine that they'd be down past the tread depth indicators, because Alf Costanzo in the first heat was very nearly down to them on only 25 laps.
That's right, and I noticed also whether Philip Revell's been taking it reasonably easy, because he started on his cleanest dirty shirts as well.
And Alfie is really flying. He has just equalled Robert Hansford's lap record, 50.1. How about that?
And actually he's just about on to Hansford.
Fascinating. Well, it's been a great afternoon of motor racing here, and it still is. The only thing that's going to make me happy when the racing finishes is the fact that we've got a rugby test against Scots to watch. I'm looking forward to that. Andrew Madecki. I don't know where you'd put Andrew in a rugby team. I think you'd have to put him out on the wing, or perhaps a fullback, a sort of a tall Roger Gould.
He's very tall even for a racing driver, and obviously you can imagine racing drivers it is ideal for them to be fairly short, so they can actually fit in a car.
2 laps to go.
Alfie's very skatey as well, Will.
As Madecki on new tyres and looking after the car, but back here we've got Costanzo displacing Hansford 1 further, so Costanzo from tail end Charlie, 11th place on lap 1, is now 5th on lap 23.
Doing an excellent job with Alfie. I'd like to see the rev counter at the end of this one as well.
And he came 4th in the first heat. So Madeki Bow will take first, second as they've been running so well, O'Brien, and Costanzo will end up fourth with his placing because Williamson is further back. Williamson now running seventh. So that's the way it'll fall into shape, assuming nothing dramatic.
Well, excellent.
And in the Australian Drivers' Championship, of course, it'll put John Smith, who won the first round of the championship, equal with Andrew Madeki.
John, there's no easier way then to lead a series than sitting up here in the commentary box, and it's damn sight cheaper.
It's cheaper and easier, but not quite as desirable for me, Will.
So that's the situation that, providing nothing dramatic changes, Madeki will be the winner of this National Panasonic opening round, and we'll be covering more of them on ABC Sport. But also the second round of the Australian Drivers' Championship. Bow will take second, O'Brien will take third, Costanzo with a fourth in the first heat and the fifth in this will take fourth.
Flag coming out.
Williamson will take fifth as Madeki goes over the line. There are the results.